Welcome to Aligned Christ-Centered Yoga. My name is Linda and I'll be guiding our practice today. My question for you as you begin today is this. How comfortable are you with a peaceful and quiet life? When I think of peace, I usually think of that internal peace, this peace that happens supernaturally in the midst of tragedy and chaos. But God wants us to live peaceful lives as well, and that is not one of my strengths. I signed up for a flatwater rafting trip, and I did it intentionally because I had people with me that were not all comfortable in the water. I thought that there would be small rapids, little dips and divots that we would have fun with as we went up and over and around. I was wrong. This was flat water rafting. It took about 2.5 hours to slowly drift down a very short distance of the river. And it was hard for me. I loved the people I was with. It was a gorgeous day. I kept telling myself to take deep breaths, to live in the present, to notice the beauty around me, to appreciate. And it was hard. Our group finished about 20 minutes before the next group behind us because we were paddling so that we could go a little faster. Slowing down is important. And Paul tells this to Timothy, a new pastor that Paul is mentoring. He says, I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. This is good and pleases God, our Savior, who wants all people to be saved and to come to a knowledge of the truth. When my life is chaotic, I step away from God. I get busy. I don't pray as much. I don't worship as wholeheartedly. I don't invest in the relationships that I need to invest in. And in that, opportunities are lost to share the love of God with others. This will be a peaceful and a quiet practice, maybe not an easy one. I invite you to come to a comfortable seated position, maybe elevating the hips up on a blanket or a block. Rock a little bit side to side, front to back as you find those sitting bones. And I invite you to draw shoulders all the way up to the ears, and as you exhale, let them drop. And maybe twice more. And let go of any need or desire that you have to have a busy life, to be in the middle of all the things that are going on. Let your hands come down to your legs, and if you're comfortable with it, close your eyes and begin to notice where your breath begins today. In this practice, we'll be working our way towards low cobra, a very foundational pose. And I invite you as we go to be as fully present as you can. When thoughts distract you or enter in, simply set them aside. When you begin to lose focus, bring your focus back to the breath and the body. Begin to deepen the breath, breathing a little more fully into the lungs, the rib cage, down into that diaphragm muscle. And exhale up the body. Begin to breathe more three-dimensionally, opening up the rib cage a little wider with each breath. As you find this thoracic breath, this breath in the rib cage, begin to notice the movement of the muscles underneath the arms as well, the serratus anterior. Take one more breath here. I invite you to bring your hands to your hip crease and begin to gently tilt the hips forward and back. And so as you come into this forward tilt, this anterior tilt, just begin to notice the response of the lower back. And as you tuck the hips, notice the response of the hips. So back and forth here a couple more times. And making this a little bit bigger, begin to find cat and cow. So find the sitting bones again, reach those arms all the way out to the edges of the room. As you exhale, tilt the hips back, round the shoulders. Cat pose. As you inhale, turn the palms out, thumbs down. Begin to open up across the chest as those hip points move forward. Back and forth here, noticing have the sensations in the lower back and the hips shifted at all now that you've deepened the pose and added the arms. Can you connect breath and movement? Exhaling into cat, inhaling into cow. 2 more times here. On that next exhale, come into that that cat pose. Interlacing the fingers, gently draw the right shoulder forward, maybe lifting it up just a little bit as you look underneath. Can you find that stretch in the shoulder blade? And coming back to center, bring the palms out, raising the arms all the way up. Exhale, hands come down behind you. Begin to find that cow pose. Opening up across the chest, finding breath shoulder to shoulder. Come back into cat pose, maybe interlacing the fingers differently this time. And this time bring that left shoulder forward, lifting a little bit up, maybe looking underneath the arm. Can you find the stretch in the back on this side? And one final time, go ahead and bring those palms forward, raise them all the way up. Let the shoulders relax and then take a deep breath in, and using all of the breath that you can you push those arms up with breath? And exhale into cow. As you're ready, release. If you're up on a block or a prop, come off it. Bring any props that you have towards the front of the mat. And I invite you to take that right leg out to the side. Find a tree pose as you press the foot into the leg. Begin to activate the muscles. So as you flex the foot, can you bring the toes a little bit towards the knees? And as you push the heel away, can you draw the hamstring, that muscle behind the thigh, in towards the hip? From here, exhaling, round the back forward. Inhaling, rise up. Back and forth here a few times, checking in, noticing what's going on today in the leg, in the hip, in the back. One more time here. And then as you're ready, draw forward. Support yourself with your hands. Maybe they are on the floor or around the leg or around the foot. Maybe you cross the wrists. Begin to draw the elbows towards the rib cage. Taking a deep breath in. Lengthen through the spine. And then exhaling, hinge at the hip and find your hamstring stretch. Stay here for 2 more breaths and see if you can use the breath to enhance the stretch. Gently press the hands into the mat and rise up. Bring the front arm back behind you. Sweep that right arm all the way across the body and up. I invite you to lift the hips and open up, and maybe you can find a hip flexor stretch as you tuck those hips under just a little bit more. Can you open up shoulder to shoulder as you breathe into the lungs? And can you find a back bend as you relax the abdominals and breathe length into the spine? Exhaling, release, and bring the arm down. Go ahead and bring those legs in front of you. Bounce the knees, windshield wiper the feet. Maybe find the sitting bones again. Just settling here in staff pose, maybe closing your eyes. Notice what you notice. What is happening in the body? What is happening in the back? Where do you feel sensation? Is the right side the same as the left? Same sequence on the other side. Go ahead and bring that left leg forward. Press the foot into the thigh. Again, activating the muscles of the left leg. Flexing the heel forward. Flexing the foot as the heel presses forward. Drawing the toes towards the knee. Go ahead and draw the hamstring muscle back towards the hips. Exhale, come forward. Inhale, rise up. A few more times here. This is your check-in. What are you feeling? Where might you need to be a little more careful today? How are you going to modify this practice to meet the needs of your body in this moment? On that next exhale, come forward. Again, just crossing the wrists or supporting the hands, supporting yourself with hands on either side of the leg. If the wrists are crossed, begin to draw those elbows back towards the rib cage. Lengthening through the spine with breath. Can you let the head get heavy? What do you notice in this stretch? Take 2 more breaths. Gently press into your hands and rise up. You're going to take that right hand behind you. Sweep that left arm in front and up. Lift the hips up. You're going to point that toe now. And can you find that stretch in the front of the hip as you tuck the hips under? Can you open up shoulder to shoulder across the ribs? And then can you take a deep breath all the way up the length of the body and find a back bend? Exhaling, release. Once again, bring the legs forward, boggling the knees, windshield wiper the feet. Find the sitting bones. Settle here, closing your eyes if you're comfortable. Again, just checking in, noticing what you notice. As you're ready, meet me in table. Wrists will be underneath shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Go ahead and smack through the tops of your feet and press them down into the mat. I invite you to grip with your fingers. So take your fingertips and the pads at the base of your fingers and press down and draw the mat towards your knees. Press down through the tops of your feet, and from here begin to find that pelvic tilt, dropping the hip points towards the mat. Tucking the tailbone as they rise. And so for 2 more times, 2 more breaths, just exploring sensation as you work against gravity now. How does your back feel today? And begin to add cow and cat. Dropping the hips down, opening up across the chest as the collarbone rises. Exhaling, tucking the pelvis, rounding the back, letting the back of the head reach towards the mat. So back and forth here 2 more times, cow to cat. Begin to notice what's happening in the shoulder girdle as well. Can those shoulders round up and over and forward as you come into that cat pose? Meet me back in table. Find your breath here. Notice how your back feels. Notice the neutral position of your spine. Where are your curves? As you're ready, take your hands forward, come forward onto your knees and find a kneeling plank. So let's take the wrist just a little bit in front of the shoulders, the eyes of the elbows draw in, again gripping with those fingers, and draw down to the mat. Forearms a little bit wide, pressing down with the pads of the fingers and the fingertips, rise up into Sphinx, and exhale down. So 2 more times here, noticing the natural movement of the muscles in the back, noticing how the back feels today, noticing the distance between shoulders and ears, the movement of the shoulder blades. 1 more time here. Come down to the mat, grip with those fingers, press down with your forearms, and lift the chest, rolling the shoulders slightly forward, letting the head drop. And then bring the chest forward as the shoulders come up and back. Head rises, collarbone lifts up. Find your Sphinx pose and stay here. Can you find the work in the upper back? If it's a little more comfortable for you, maybe you take those legs a little bit wider. Stay here as the arms and the legs press down, as the abdominals stretch up. And exhale down, hands to rib cage. Come back through table to child. So 2 more times here, just moving through this flow. Kneeling plank to the mat. Sphinx to child. Move at your pace with your breath. Stay in child for 3 breaths and begin to activate child's pose. So again, gripping a little bit with those fingers. Breathe into the thoracic region of the spine, into that rib cage. Maybe you can find a little more length in the body. Let the hip creases reach back. 1 more breath here. Meet me back in table on that next inhale. Invite you to tilt the pelvis. So anterior tilt, let those hip points drop down towards the mat. Curl the toes under and begin to find your downward facing dog from here. So keep the hip tilt, draw the knees into the rib cage. Let the head come down, shake the head out, no, and yes. Engaging through the abdominals, begin to pedal through the feet. On that next inhale, the heels rise. On the next exhale, the heels come down towards the mat. Can you lift the toes and activate the muscles of the legs? Can you press through the pads of the fingers and the fingertips? And then can you take that deep breath and lengthen through the spine? Let those serratus muscles push the arms towards the ears, as the hips reach towards where the ceiling meets the wall. On that next inhale, the right leg rises, lift the left heel, and drawing the gaze forward, bring that right foot in between your hands as the back knee taps down and up. Begin to notice what's going on in that hip flexor. Is it tight today? How does it feel? And then as you're ready, let that thigh come up towards the sky. Heel presses back. Find the stretch here. And then taking a deep breath in, draw the arms all the way up and rise up into lunge and find your balance, which I totally missed there. Hands to thighs, gently move the muscles of the thighs towards the knees, shoulders back over the hips. Begin to raise that back thigh up just a little bit, and then a micro bend of the knee to find the hip stretch. Take the arms out to the side and exhaling, round those arms forward as those shoulders rotate up and over. And then bring those arms all the way back, lift your heart to the sky. Open up across the chest and find your back bend. On the next inhale, arms rise high. Take a deep breath in, push the arms up. And exhale, hands down to either side of the foot. Front foot comes to the back, meet me in plank. From plank, I invite you to come all the way down to the mat, maybe through chaturanga, or maybe you're kneeling, whatever is best for you. And come back to Sphinx pose. So again, in this preparation for low cobra, finding Sphinx, nose to the mat, and then exhale and let that chest just come off the floor. And round the shoulders a little bit. And then inhale as those shoulders come towards the ears and back, and tuck the shoulder blades under the rib cage to find Sphinx. Stay here for a breath. Exhaling, come down to the mat, hands to the rib cage, come through table. Tilt the hips down, curl the toes under, come into that downward facing dog. Can you keep that tilt of the hips so that there is a bend in the back? Begin to activate the muscles of the legs a little more. Take one more breath here. And taking a deep breath in, let that left leg rise high. And gaze forward, bring the foot all the way through the hands and find your balance and rise into your lunge. Again, hands to thighs, gently draw the muscles of the leg towards the knee. Hips facing forward, begin to raise that back thigh up, and then that micro bend of the knee just to find that hip stretch. This time the arms come out to the side. Again, as you exhale, can you just bring those shoulders, rotate them up and over? And then that downward rotation as you bring those shoulders back and the thumbs come behind you, the palms are up, open up into that back bend. Inhaling, bring the arms all the way up overhead. Exhale. Inhale, let the arms rise a little higher as you push them up with those muscles along the side of the body. And exhale, hands to either side of the foot. Go ahead and bring the back foot to the front. Meet me in your first forward fold. Go ahead and hold on to the elbows. Let your head shake no and yes. Begin to straighten out the legs. Find the support that you need. Maybe you have blocks or your hands are on your feet or the mat or your legs. And that next inhale, hands come up halfway. Exhaling, come down, pressing through the feet, come all the way up. Hands to heart. Stay here in mountain pose for a couple of breaths. Just check in and notice where you landed. Begin to strengthen your mountain. Go ahead and press your feet down to the mat, particularly at the base of the big toe, little toe, and heel. Maybe the toes press as well. Begin to find the stretch in the psoas. So the tailbone isn't tucked, but maybe the hands come down and just gently draw the hips towards the mat. Let the arms rise. Deep breath in, push those arms up. Exhale, let those hands come out to the side. Turn the palms down, round the shoulders. Bring the arms back, palms up, thumbs behind you and down. Find your back bend. Deep breath in, arms rise, exhaling, forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down and one leg back and then the other and meet me in plank and come all the way down to the mat, and this time just stay here. So let's start to explore this cobra, low cobra. So maybe for you it's better if those feet come a little bit wider. Let's take the hands wide and press into the fingertips, elbows up, nose towards the mat. Exhaling, lift the chest off the mat, just like we did in Sphinx. And then inhaling, bring the chest forward and up. Find your low cobra. Take one more deep breath in, breathe in, push up, all the way up under those arms. Stretch the abdominals, see where you go, and exhale out of it. Hands come back towards the rib cage. Come through table. Curl the toes under, let the hips tilt as the hip points come towards the mat as the buttocks rise, the glutes rise to the sky. Then bring the knees to the rib cage and come into downward dog. And stay here in downward facing dog for another breath. On the next inhale, right leg rises high. Gaze forward, foot comes all the way through the hands, rise all the way up into your lunge. Settle into your lunge again. Hands come forward, drawing that knee forward. Raise that back leg, finding that hip stretch, that flexibility in the psoas is going to help with that back bend. Deep breath in, arms out to the side. Exhale, round those shoulders forward. Inhale, thumbs come back, open up. Deep breath in, arms rise. Exhale, hands to heart. Bring the back foot to warrior one, so it will be flat on the mat, angled slightly to the outside. I invite you to straighten the front leg and lift the other arm. As we exhale, round your back, bend this front knee as much as you need to as you come all the way forward and up. And I invite you to find a little bit of a back bend as you come up. So 2 more times here, moving at your pace with your breath. And after that third time or that next time, go ahead and draw the knees over the ankle. Find your warrior one, arms rise. Take a nice deep breath in, push those arms up. Exhale, go ahead and bring the hands behind you, interlacing the fingers. Let the elbows go wide and begin to open up across the chest and find the back bend. Deep breath in, arms rise. Exhale, hands to either side of the foot. Back foot comes up to the front, meet knee and forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhaling, come down. Take a deep breath in as you rise into mountain. Inhale and push those shoulders up. Exhaling, hands to heart. Check in, noticing particularly the right side of the body compared to the left. Is there a difference? What do you notice? How comfortable are you being still? On the next inhale, arms rise. On the next exhale, forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway and exhale down and one leg back and then the other and meet me in that strong plank. And then come down to the mat. All the way down. So again, tent the fingers, elbows out to the side, elbows rise towards the sky. Maybe the legs come out just a little bit wide. Engaging the muscles of the legs as well. Can you exhale and lift the upper back, rounding the shoulders just a little bit. And then take that inhale as the chest moves up and through. Find that first low cobra. And then take a deep breath in and push up those armpits just a little bit further. And just see where you go. One more breath here. Exhaling, release. Hands to either side of the rib cage, come into table. Curling the toes under. Go ahead and tilt the hip points towards the floor and that anterior tilt. Knees come towards the rib cage, head drops. Find your downward dog, and I invite you to pedal through downward facing dog. Explore it. Notice the right side of the body, the left. Taking a deep breath in, let the heels rise and let them fall. Maybe you can grip the mat a little bit more with your fingertips and the pads of your fingers. Maybe you can find a little more length in the body with breath. Maybe you can activate the muscles of the legs a little more. On that next inhale, the left leg rises high. Drawing the gaze forward, bring the foot in between the hands, rise into your lunge. And exhale, hands to thigh. So again, just nudging the muscles a little bit forward, finding that stretch in the psoas as the hips face towards the front. It's a slight tuck of the tailbone there. Finding the stretch in the hip, arms rise and come out to the side. Again, exhaling, just rotate those shoulders up and over. Inhaling, rotate them back and under. Let the arms rise, shoulders come all the way up as you push up with breath. And exhale, hands to heart. Finding balance, bring that back foot to warrior one, wide edge of the mat, angled slightly to the side. Straighten out that front leg, opposite arm rises. So my left hand is on my thigh, right arm up. As you come forward, go ahead and bend that knee, reach as far as you can, come all the way down. As you come up, can you find a back bend? 2 more times here. Moving at your pace, allowing the movement or the breath to drive the movement. As you're ready, stay in that warrior and find it. And again, bring the hands out to the side and round those shoulders up and over and exhale. And inhale, and how much space and breath can you create in that back bend? And deep breath in, the arms rise. And exhaling, hands come to either side of the foot, and the back foot comes up and meet me in that forward fold. And hands to shins, rise up halfway. And exhale down and pushing through the feet, come all the way up, palms together, and exhale, hands to heart. Again, checking into mountain, noticing the effects of that sequence on the body. Noticing also mind and attitude. Maybe even emotion, accepting it as it is. Taking a deep breath in, arms rise, exhaling, forward fold. Hands to shins, rise up halfway. Exhaling, come down, one leg back and then the other, meet me in plank. From plank, come all the way down to the mat. Let's explore the low cobra one more time. So fingertips you're on the tips and the wrists are lifted high and the elbows are out to the side. And as you exhale, just round those shoulders up and over and forward. And then inhale and push the chest up and through and draw those shoulders all the way back. And maybe the tips of the shoulder blades are tucking in under those ribs. And find breath as you lengthen through the spine and push the armpits up. And exhale down. Go ahead and bring your forearms to the mat. I invite you to turn your cheek to one side and to wiggle your hips. And then look the other way and wiggle your hips again. And as you're ready, meet me back in table. Find table, gripping a little bit with the fingers, pressing through the tops of your feet, lengthening through the spine. And just notice, how does the back feel? Notice your curves. Has anything shifted since you started your practice today? And then gently just exhale back to that child's pose and rise into table. And 2 more times here. As you're ready, come into child's pose and stay there. I invite you to maybe take those knees out just a little bit. Maybe the hips continue to tilt a little bit forward here. Begin to find rest. What does rest look like for you? What does a quiet life look like for you? I invite you to take 2 more breaths here. As you're ready, press into your hands and rise up. Go ahead and bring those feet forward and a little bit wide, and maybe the knees just tap down side to side. And then as you're ready, come onto your back. Go ahead and bring one block towards the hips. Come all the way down in the back, and maybe the knees come in and come into happy baby. So can you find a neutral position of the spine, whatever that natural curve is for you? And can you engage the abdominals and hold on to that, and then bring the knees towards the shoulders? And as the knees come towards the shoulder, can you keep that curve in the lower back? So maybe there's a blueberry or a raspberry underneath it and you don't want to crush it. And then just hold on wherever you're comfortable. So, maybe it's your big toe or the outside of your foot, or maybe your hands are just around the thighs. And begin to let the shoulders drop and the shoulder blades get heavy. And to find that release in the hips. I invite you to take 2 more breaths here. As you're ready, let your hands come to the outside of your legs. Bring your legs in towards the center. Feet hip width apart, feet to the mat. Go ahead and lift your hips just enough that you can bring a block underneath the back. So we're just going to come above the tailbone and below the spine. The block is underneath the sacrum bone that connects the tailbone to the spine. Should feel very supported. We've done a lot of back bending today, so maybe it feels good to bring it up a level. It's just up to you, whatever is most comfortable. And let the shoulder blades get heavy. Can you let the hips relax? Let go of the abdominals. How is the body moving with breath? Stay here for 1 more breath. As you're ready, press into your heels. Lift your hips up just high enough that you can slide that block out, and slowly, 1 vertebra at a time, come back to the mat. Take 2 breaths here, noticing how the back has settled to the mat. And then I invite you to lift your knees and keep your feet together and just gently circle the knees on the ceiling, massaging out the lower back. And as you're ready, go the other direction. And then gently draw the knees into the rib cage and away, back and forth here. After 1 more breath, let the feet come to the mat and extend the legs long. Maybe you windshield wiper the feet and bounce the knees. Maybe you wiggle those hips a little bit. Reach the hands up to the sky. Reach as high as you can. Palms reaching, reaching, reaching. Let the shoulder blades thump down. 1 more time here. And as you're ready, let the arms come all the way down to your side. Palms up. And find breath. As you settle into Shavasana today, begin to let go of those things in your life, commitments, desires, that prevent you from living a peaceful and quiet life. Beginning to embrace this life of holiness and godliness, fully invested in prayer and intercession and relationships with others. I invite you to stay here a little longer if you can. But if you need to come out of this, get on with your day, begin to gently bring movement back to fingers and toes. Rotate wrists and ankles. Maybe turn your head from the top of one ear up and over to the top of the other. On that next inhale, bring arms up and overhead and reach as long as you can. And on that next exhale, bend your knees and roll over onto your side, supporting your head with your arm or a block or prop. And find your breath here. On that next inhale, press into your hands and rise up to a sitting position, finding your sitting bones, crossing your legs comfortably in front of you. Check in one final time, body, mind, and soul, remembering where you were when you came to the mat today, noticing where you are now, accepting it as it is. On that next inhale, arms rise up and overhead. And exhaling, bring hands to heart. Join me in prayer. Holy God, we confess that it is often hard to quiet our lives. We don't want to miss out on things going on around us. We feel pressure to perform, to live up to the expectations of ourselves and others. Thank you for this reminder that our call is simply to be in relationship with you, to be in relationship with others, and that these are our first and most important priorities. We thank you for the example, Jesus, that you set for us on this earth, and we thank you for your sacrifice on the cross, that we can be united with you moment to moment and day to day. It is in the name of Jesus the Christ that we pray. Amen. Thank you for practicing with me today.